This is Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 515. The Best Things I've Learned About Raising Children, Part 2, by Babauta of Zen Habits.net. Happy Friday to ya! I'm Joss Marie, and welcome back to my show. This is the podcast where I narrate content that's all about making your relationships the best they can be. And today, I'll be narrating part 2 of a post from yesterday. So if you're new here, you may want to check out yesterday's episode. That's episode 515 first to hear part 1. Also, if you haven't already, come on over to oldpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter. There's a book raffle for those on the list on the first of every month, which is coming up in just 2 days. Plus, you'll get helpful life tips, recommendations, and all that good stuff. But for now, let's get right into part 2 and continue optimizing your life. The Best Things I've Learned About Raising Children, Part 2, by Babauta of Zen Habits.net. Number 10, practice mindfulness with them. I have meditated with all my kids, not regularly, but enough that they know what it's all about. When my daughter comes to me upset about something, we practice mindfulness of how the emotion feels in her body, being with the emotion. When my other daughter is feeling anxiety, we talk about how to practice with that as well. They've also seen me meditating in the morning, so mindfulness practice becomes a normal thing for them. Number 11, the main way you teach them is by your example. Speaking of watching me meditate, this is the main way that I teach them anything. By my example, by how I am in the world. If I want to teach them not to fight, I have to be peaceful. If I want to teach them to be good people, I have to be compassionate, considerate, loving. If I want to teach them to not be on their devices, I have to do the same. If I want them to be active, to eat healthily, to read, to meditate, then it starts with me doing it and talking to them about what I'm doing and why and what I'm learning and how I'm doing it. They learn almost everything from what people around them do. Number 12, don't pretend like you know everything. That said, while I try to do the best in my life, I have to humble myself and admit that I don't know everything. In fact, I barely know anything. I can't always think I'm right, nor can I pretend to have all the answers, even if I'm the dad. Maybe my kids know some things I don't. Maybe we can learn together, but it starts with me saying, I'm not sure, let's find out. This mindset of not knowing is where learning starts, this space that we can explore together, this space where we become open to each other. Many parents and people in general come at you with the stance that they know exactly what they're doing, know the answers. This leaves no room for anything else. It's fundamentalism. Number 13, admit when you're wrong, apologize, make it right. Along those lines, when I think I'm right and insist on it, that's often when I'm wrong. And I've been humbled like so many times. What I've learned is instead of continuing to pretend like I'm right, it's so much better to admit that I'm wrong, to humble myself, actually apologize if I've done anything to hurt them, and do what it takes to make it right. Number 14, let them earn and pay for things early and teach them about debt. In our house, we don't have an allowance. We buy them the basics of what they need, but if they want anything beyond that, they have to pay for it themselves and earn the money through things beyond their basic chores. They might do things for us or work for my business or make things or do services for others to earn money. This also teaches them to save for goals. I also talk to them about the dangers of getting into debt, the high cost of credit card debt, and some simple financial truths that I've learned. Number 15. Don't shield them from drugs and technology. Some parents don't want their children to hear anything about or drugs and shield them from that for as long as possible. This just makes, for example, a taboo subject and gives the kids an unhealthy idea of how bad it is. I've found it much better to speak frankly about it, and if I were going to do it all over again, I'd start that frank talk much earlier. This isn't something that should be made dirty or forbidden. It's a natural thing that all adults do. Kids should get that sense from adults and be helped through that confusing world by their parents rather than having to figure it out through what they hear from friends or happen upon online. I think the same is true of drugs. Another thing that some parents shield their kids from is technology. No devices ever. But that means that kids don't learn a healthy way to deal with technology. It's better to just help them learn to deal with all this stuff rather than not trust them. Number 16. It's okay to hang out without them and let them have separate time from you. I love hanging out with my kids, but that doesn't mean it's healthy for them to be with me every second of the day. Sometimes they can go play by themselves while my wife and I have alone time. Sometimes they can have an evening at home while we go on a date when they're old enough. Other times we can drop them with a relative and go on a trip by ourselves or with friends. I think alone time and time away from parents is a healthy thing for kids. Give them space. Let them learn to deal with being on their own. Again, when appropriate. Give yourself space to replenish yourself or find romance with your partner without them. Number 17. Parenting ain't over when they reach adulthood. I used to joke, if I get my kids to 18 years old alive, I've succeeded as a parent. Of course, that's absolute bunk. I've learned that parenting is far from over once they reach adulthood. 4 of our kids are adults now, and it's a whole new challenging phase of parenting for us. We're trying to teach them how to do adult things, how to be financially self-sufficient, how to get the dream jobs they want, how to deal with relationship stuff, and much more. I love it, but it's not like I can just retire now. And number 18. In the end, they will be the person they are. You don't get to decide who that is. Each kid is already a fully formed person when they're young. They continue to grow every year, of course, but their personalities when they're young continue to be mostly the same as they grow older. We don't shape these kids. They are already themselves. They will choose their own paths, decide what life they want, and grow in the direction they choose. I don't have control over any of that. In the end, that's what we parents need to accept. We don't really control our kids. We just try to guide them when we can and love them for who they are. I'm still learning. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. And yet, I hope some of what I've learned so far will help a few of you. I love being a dad. It's an incredible privilege and one of the deepest joys in my life. Thank you, kids and moms. You just listened to part 2 of the post titled, The Best Things I've Learned About Raising Children by Babauta of Zen Habits.net. Thanks again so much to Leo for letting me share his knowledge. And just a little FYI that we actually narrate his content across all 5 of our shows. I hope you enjoyed this 2-part episode. But with that, let's wrap up today's episode. Have a good one, and I'll see you again first thing on Monday, where your optimal life awaits.